Leading stories, trending topics, changing narratives. You're listening to the Critical Conversations podcast.
Welcome back to another episode of the Critical Conversations podcast. My name is Dr. Rick Daniels, and I am the Director of Institutional Equity and Inclusion right here at Oakton College. Today's episode is entitled More Than a Holiday, a Juneteenth Conversation. Our objective is to explore the significance of Juneteenth through personal stories and reflections while discussing its historical roots, present-day relevance, and future as a federally recognized holiday. I'm honored to be joined by Janeen Jackson once again, and three incredible students from Oakton's Black Student Success Program. Together, we are about to unpack the significance of Juneteenth, what it means today, and where we see it going in the future. Welcome to the show, everybody.
Thank you for inviting us.
Yeah, great to have you here. Let's take a second and do introductions. We need to let the people know who you are. So just give me your first and last name and tell us about what you're studying at Oakton, and then we'll dive in.
My name is Uduko, and I'm studying nursing.
Nursing. Welcome to the show.
My name is AnnLouise Applewhite, and I'm studying computer science.
Welcome.
My name is Mulla, Juma, and I'm studying HVAC.
Welcome.
And Janeen Jackson, Equity Coordinator for Black Student Success. Again, thank you for inviting me back to the podcast.
Welcome back. Welcome back. And thanks for being here today. This is an incredible topic, and I'm excited to be diving in. I am going to be intentionally trying to do a little less talking this episode because I really want to hear from you. And we have a lot to unpack today and a lot to highlight. But for those who don't know, I'd like to start off with just a little bit of background on Juneteenth. So, Janeen, I'm going to ask for your help on this as we kind of talk about it from a historical perspective. But then I'm going to point to the students and ask for you to tell us about your first experience with it. So let's talk a little bit about what it is. We understand that Juneteenth, June 19th, 1865. Janeen, what happened that day?
Well, troops were sent down to Texas to let the final, I believe it was 500,000 slaves to know that 2 years ago, they were emancipated. However, they didn't know that they were emancipated.
Yeah.
And you said June 19th. I know it's Juneteenth. I heard it was 17th, 18th, 16th.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's new to me.
I think that's why it's 18th. Because
we are...
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Wow.
Right.
This got to be an incredible thing to be free for 2 years and not... No, I think in a lot of ways, there's a symbolism to that, which makes me think about the education around this. And my question to the students is, tell us about your first time learning about Juneteenth. And then what did it mean to you to learn it? How did you learn about it? How did you come to the knowledge of it?
Well, I'm not going to lie. I learned about Juneteenth originally, like during quarantine, like in 2020. And it was like on social media because like people were posting about it. So like, and I didn't originally know what it was. So when I was seeing people post about it, then I like found out that it was supposed to be a celebration of the emancipation of Black Americans. So that's how I learned about it.
How did it make you feel when you found out what it was?
I felt good about it because I think it's good that Black Americans do have like essentially, I don't know if this is like correct to say, but like an Independence Day almost.
Yes, it is.
That they can celebrate their freedom. Like, I thought that was really good. So
yeah. It's almost like an Interdependence Day, right? Yeah. Others, how did you come to the knowledge of this holiday and how did it make you feel?
It was always in my house, but not in depth. So it was just like, oh, this is our day. But back, growing up, it wasn't that you explained to children what it was. But then in third grade, I had a teacher, Ms. Davis, who went beyond the books and would just go more in depth. So she would get me on Saturdays and she explained Juneteenth to me and explained it to students that she would get on Saturdays. And I was just like in awe.
Wow.
I was fascinated about it. Yeah, I was just in awe and just in shock because I remember Abraham Lincoln like being one of my favorite presidents because he has the same birthday as my mom. So learning that Black people were still enslaved, but they were technically free and people were just not letting go of it. And like back then thinking as a third grader, like they're breaking the law, like, and this is okay to do. Yeah. So it was just, I was just excited, but then disappointed at the same time.
Yeah. It's like you're excited to learn about the freedom, but then the reality of what we were enslaved to.
Yes.
hits you a different way.
Yes.
Wow.
And that's the year I stopped standing up to the Pledge of Allegiance after finding that out. And it was on my own.
Wow.
Like, it was the way that I felt after learning that. I was like, this isn't for us. Yeah.
For me, I've heard it up this year, the beginning of this year. In Kenya, where I come from, we don't get to celebrate Juneteenth. And it's something new. And also it gives me a history about the Black Americans, how they were treated, how they had to survive, all the struggles that they had to go through. And knowing that you've been freed, and yet someone who has enslaved you is still wanting to keep you, and they have the information that you're freed. So it's a sad story, but finally I'm happy that they were able to get the information and they were freed.
Yeah, excellent. I appreciate that. Go ahead. Go ahead,
I know that we call the holiday Juneteenth celebration, but as I expressed to some of the students in BSSP, I have trouble around the word celebration because of the misinformation that these last hundreds of thousands of slaves received. And I feel as though Juneteenth, in a way, overrides the actual emancipation. We don't have Emancipation Day, as far as I know, but yet we're celebrating the lack of information given to these final slaves. So I feel odd in celebrating it because now it's become so commercialized. You can find Juneteenth plates, cups, shirts, stickers. And I think that people think that it is, that's Emancipation Day for slaves. But we were emancipated 2 years prior. This is the last group that didn't know. So really, it's the I didn't know celebration day. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. So let me restate so I hear what you're saying. When you say, it sounds like you're saying it makes it hard to celebrate the fact that people were free and weren't aware of that.
Right. And they're calling this Emancipation Day. We were emancipated.
We were already emancipated. We just didn't know it.
These are the last group that didn't know it, and then we can even unpack why they didn't know it, That's definitely another podcast.
So do you think it's possible for people to celebrate? Can two things be true at the same time? I guess is what I'm asking. Can you be celebratory about the people that the last people to come down the emancipation train, if you will, but also have reverence for the serious reality that these people were enslaved, first of all, to begin with, right? But then 2 years after they were supposed to be, like, I think that's kind of it's almost like the double consciousness thing.
It's a yes and moment, right?
Yeah. What do you all think?
So I do think that two things can be true at the same time. And like Miss Janeen said, this was the last group. So that's how it was explained to me. Like, I could just see my teacher's face. Like, I remember her just explaining, like, this was the last group. And because we were third graders, she tried to keep it just, nice and neat, but just explaining, like, how they were tricked, how these people just didn't know, and that we're celebrating because finally all are free. If that makes sense. Like now, like Ms. Janeen said, like now all are free. So now we can celebrate.
Right. Yeah. That's what I gathered. Yeah.
So now we can celebrate because all are free, but don't forget that this is not the day that they were free. Don't mix up the two. So I think it does give you a chance, or us a chance, to explain to people who don't know, who think that, like, this is just it. So
we're good now.
Yeah, like, we're fine. Yeah. So I do.
I think it's important for Juneteenth to have that education around that.
Yes.
We don't, like I said, it's beyond plates and balloons.
Yeah.
We really need to understand that. And actually, it would be great if we could even go deeper and unpack not having that information. Because, if you think about today, there's still more information that we could learn about ourselves as it pertains to the government, our legal system, our rights. And
how we connected to broader aspects of life. I think you're right. And I think for me, I feel conflicted in my own personal celebration of it because of the same thing. I didn't find out until I may have been when I moved to Milwaukee when I was a kid, because they would have Juneteenth celebrations. And I grew up in a house that was very, very pro-Black. So I don't think I knew what it was, though, until I became an adult, because it wasn't taught to me. And that was sort of the conflicting thought that I had. I was happy to find out, kind of like Black Wall Street. When I found out about it, I felt empowered, but I also felt furious that no one decided to teach me this. And I can tell you plenty of other stories like that, but I kind of feel like that's how some people receive Juneteenth. I do want to come back around to the commercialization of it, though. And I want to hear from you all, because you mentioned when you found out, but how do we feel about the plates? How do we feel about the cups? How do we feel about Target? Okay, we're going to talk about how do we feel about the commercialization of this 5 years after George Floyd, the murder of George Floyd, and how that took over the public consciousness. How do you feel about how it's presented in America at this point?
I want to go first, because Adaugo and I worked very closely, and Mulla, with all things Black History Month on this campus. And when we were looking for decorations for Black History Month, a lot of Juneteenth stuff came up in Amazon. Mm-hmm. And I was getting angry. There was a lot of like these fists in the air, but then the fist was kind of like bleeding the colors. And I said, we can't use this. They look like the fist is bleeding, the people are bleeding. And so I ordered some decorations. Remember, I said you had to cut that part off. And I think I saw, I know it had to be AI generated. They had Juneteenth and Black History Month blocks. It's like I am Juneteenth. And I'm like, why do we have blocks? Like, what are we going to do with wooden blocks? And so it made me personally feel as though they were like, hey, let's just make anything. Black people will buy it. Mm. And that made me angry. It watered down. They were confusing Juneteenth, Emancipation, and Black History Month all in one. I mean, don't you agree? From what we saw?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, personally, I think it is a very bad thing that bigger corporations are trying to market, basically like make money off of the holiday without actually probably not even really caring about it. But I also kind of think that type of stuff is inevitable, especially because I feel like Juneteenth, I want more people to know about it. I want like more people to celebrate it. I want that to be a thing. And I feel like with more people knowing about it and more people celebrating it, and the bigger it becomes as a holiday, that stuff is going to happen eventually. But I also think, I don't know, there might be a bright side to it. Like maybe people might be shopping in the store and they might be like, Juneteenth, like what is that? And it might lead them to try to research and
bring awareness.
Yeah, like and figure out like what is this holiday? What is it about? Why did this holiday come into existence and stuff? So it's kind of like, I can see how it can be a positive, but ultimately it is something that is kind of negative in nature.
Yeah, it can have a negative impact.
Yeah.
I think I'll agree with Adaugo, but also on a personal level, it's something that we have to like take ownership of it. So if you don't want them to do that, let's go out there, like create awareness, as she said. Have these stories, chats with people on a community level, so that whenever they'll have to go on those big corporations or supermarket or Amazon, when they see that, they're like, oh no, I think we had a conversation with someone about this. This is not right. So creating that awareness with people at the community level, because we're more used to like information coming from top to down instead of like bottom to up.
Right.
So yeah, it's something that we need to change. Like we have to, from community level all the way up.
All the way up. Yeah, absolutely. That's a good segue into the next topic. What do we think about Juneteenth at the federal level? Tell me about your thoughts. We're in a new political climate. It's summertime 2025. A lot's happened this year already. This year's already been a movie. And so what do you think is the future of Juneteenth at the federal level?
Juneteenth was declared a federal holiday under number 45. And so if you think...
Yeah, that's right. I got to be honest, I forgot that.
Right. And so now if you think about 47, it's strange that it is, what is it, a 180? It's DEI, anything equitable, the erasure of all types of holidays that have to do with BIPOC people, it's ridiculous. But yet, when you were 45, it was like, yeah, Juneteenth, you know?
Yeah, it was opportunistic, advantageous, opportunistic, all of the above. And so that's what makes me beg the question. We've seen how flimsy things can be at the political level. And then, of course, we saw what happened at the Black Lives Matter Plaza as well. So I just wonder, like, do you think that it's going to stick around? Do you think that there's going to be a call to remove it? How do you think the people are going to respond? Like, what do you think is the future of it?
I think, like Mulla said, if we want to keep the history alive and keep it factual, we have to spread it among ourselves. Because I remember getting the email at work about Juneteenth being a federal holiday, and so we would have the day off. This was a new CEO. And then the email was retracted closer to the date. No celebration at work. Posters taken down. So I'm like, oh, wow. This is at work. What's happening out in the world? And this is a large corporation. So the following year, not celebrated. It wasn't, so I had to take the day off versus, you're just giving it. Mm-hmm. Or if you want to use that holiday, you're just giving it because we're open on holidays as well. But it just made me realize it's for the face of it. Like, yeah, we participated. We sent out a flyer, but it doesn't have to be implemented. So I think it's just a safe face just to get attention to your company or to your, whatever your politics are, just to gain attention for that moment, but you don't care in depth versus us who care about it and are passionate about it and not allowing corporations to take it over. It reminds me of like Independence Day with the flags and how they're commercialized. And I thought it was non-patriotic to change up the flag and like wear it on shirts, wear it on hats. I thought it's like almost not illegal, but isn't that like anti-patriotic to change the flag and to wear it on clothing?
Yeah, to do a lot of things that we see.
So we see decorations with it. Like it's not just the colors, it's the actual flag that you're manipulating and putting everywhere. And now I do see that with Juneteenth when you're looking for stuff. Like where can I get it from a real vendor, a small business, and educate people? And like Mulla said, if we educate within ourselves and then people go out to corporations like, wait, that's not right. Like, who produced this? What was your purpose for producing this? Is this for yourself to gain, or is this to actually send out facts about this day and about these people? So, yeah, I don't think it'll change unless we make the change and not force it in people's faces, because if they don't want to, they don't have to, but just for yourself and the people that you care about, I think we have to get it out there.
Yeah, so okay. I need snaps for that run. Yeah. That was an amazing comment. Let me go back a couple things. Number one, I'm hearing you suggest in some way that America does this. They commercialize the American flag as well. So it's in our nature. It's in the nature of this nation to commercialize something like this when the opportunity presents itself. Yes.
Correct. Yes.
Wow. That's a very, very good way to look at this. And I hadn't thought of it that way until you said it. I also heard you talk about us being essentially the gatekeepers and being mindful of how we internalize this holiday, how we pass it down. And so I guess what I end with is, how would each of you pass down the knowledge of Juneteenth to the next generation, whether it be the next generation of Black student success students, your families? How would you pass this down? How would you want them to find this information out from you?
So I have an older cousin who's born on June 19th. So he lives in Memphis. So I always call him and I used to call him and say happy birthday first, hang up and call him back and say happy Juneteenth. But he says Juneteenth is bigger than his birthday. So as I got older, I'm like, okay, call him first, say happy Juneteenth, hang up, and then wish him happy birthday. Then I have a younger cousin. She was born on Juneteenth, and the day she was born happened to fall on Father's Day. So my family's like, oh yeah, she was born on Father's Day. I'm like, no, she was born on Juneteenth. Father's Day always changes, but Juneteenth will always be Juneteenth. So her growing up always made her aware that she's extremely special because of the day she was born on. So like she educates herself, and then she wants to do celebrations outside of her birthday, and she tries to find Juneteenth events. So I like to, in my family, we either come together, and it's not just like on other holidays where you're just drinking and potlucking or having a barbecue, but you're educating these children around us and also adults who don't know. So we have debates. we have just normal cookouts and spade competitions, all that, but also leaving the event with more knowledge and just more of a community. And that's how I want it to be. I want it to be just educational, but a fun time, and just spread and get bigger and bigger.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
And for me, I'll compare to like us growing up. Like you always heard stories from either your grandma, your grandfather, your mom, your dad, sharing like stories way before, like things that happened. So I think I'll approach it in the same way. Like with the Juneteenth, it's just sharing the stories, like what happened and how did it come about. And within my peers, it's like having those spaces where you can have all these conversations, like being open to getting information.
Right.
If someone doesn't want to know that, you can't force it, but just having those spaces will help.
Yeah. Having the space for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I definitely agree with having the spaces for it. And I feel like personally, even just talking about it with my family, because my family I'm Nigerian American, so we don't really celebrate Juneteenth, but I feel like me kind of like educating not necessarily my parents, but like my siblings, and just like letting them know like what the holiday is and, you know, where it stems from and how they can celebrate it if they would like, or how they can create space for Black American people to celebrate that and like, you know, champion them in their own history.
Absolutely. Yep.
I agree with that, because I think whether you are, I call it traditional Black American, meaning your Africans were brought here enslaved and being a byproduct of that, or you immigrated here, I think having conversations about the connection to the diaspora is deeply important. Mm-hmm. Also, I get hooked up on lack of knowledge, lack of information. And what can we learn from Juneteenth and not having the information, not being educated, and how that can impact us today so that we won't have to have another emancipation.
Right.
And we know about the first emancipation, but again, having conversations about educating ourselves, and as you said, Mulla, taking ownership of the information, not having it top down, but we decide to narrate the story. We tell the stories. Yeah. As you were saying, AnnLouise, we take ownership of the products that are given out here. And I didn't think about the flag either, Rick, about if American flag is going to be commercialized, then why are we surprised that anything else is being commercialized, right? Yep. But taking ownership. And then, as you said, Adaugo, having conversations, you know, your parents are from Nigeria, having the conversations, and now that we are living here in the United States, why it does matter for being an ally, for supporting, and the connections through the diaspora. So definitely having conversations, deep conversations about that, and candid conversations.
And critical conversations. And that's where we're going to close today. Thank you all for taking the time to be here. I know that this is a subject that's filled with a variety of emotions and perspectives, but I appreciate you adding your thoughts and your voices to this today because it's important. And so if we're celebrating this day, let's celebrate the totality of it and the reality of it so that we can all come together as one people and one community. So thank you all for joining Critical Conversations. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The Critical Conversations podcast is recorded at Oakton College, located at 1600 East Gulf Road, Des Plaines, Illinois. The show is sponsored in part by the Oakton College Educational Foundation, produced by Erick Rohn, coordinated by Brenda Cruz, and hosted by Dr. Rick Daniels. For more information or to connect with us, email critsconpod@gmail.com. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time for more Critical Conversations.